Man, I was so damn excited just a few minutes ago. I was ready to go on to. I was going to talk about WrestleMania, and I will. That's what this video is about. I'm going to be talking about night two. But man, I just watched that first look at the new Undertaker documentary, that last ride, and listening to him talk about how he really doesn't want to be that guy who says who he doesn't want to stink up the joint, and he says all that 2 days before that WrestleMania match with Roman Reigns, and you know what's coming. You know he's going to go into a match that's going to stink up the joint, because that match was so fucking terrible. It's not the worst Taker Mania match. That's Gonzalez by a mile. Man, it almost brought me to tears a little bit to see just how sad that state was. I'm looking forward to that series, by the way. That's going to be interesting. But man, that was sad. What wasn't sad though was WrestleMania. It was WrestleMania night 2. Me, oh my, there was a lot of good stuff on this night. I'm gonna get to the two things that really made me happy tonight, but let's start from the beginning, shall we? I mean, yeah, sure, there was the pre-show with Natalia and Liv Morgan. Morgan won with a roll-up, whatever. It's not part of Mania anyway. It's the pre-show. Who cares? Anyway, we start off the night with Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair for the NXT Women's Championship. This match was good, but man, Charlotte didn't need that. She didn't need to win that match. Again, the match was good, but Charlotte didn't need that. Why couldn't Rhea just have won the match? Why do we need to give Charlotte this again? And look, Charlotte is great, but she can afford to lose. Rhea is fresh as a daisy. She needed a big win for her title reign, and just no, apparently not. Apparently we're just going to give it to Charlotte and move on. But again, match was really good. You should check that out. But man, I'm not a fan of the result. I'm not angry about the result like I was with Shayna, but I guess it's because I got so angry with the Shayna stuff that it didn't really surprise me when they did it again. Anyway, moving on, we have what was next? Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley. It was alright. It was an alright match, back and forth. The finish, I'm not too sure about, because the finish was basically Bobby Lashley picks up Aleister Black for the Dominator, then Lana yells at him to do a spear. He runs, and it runs straight into a Black Mass. 1, 2, 3. Aleister locks out a win there because Lana was stupid. I feel like Aleister should have gotten a decisive victory rather than he wins because Lana is an idiot. Sorry about that. I need to stretch my legs a little bit. I've been sitting and watching Mania for a while now. Anyway, moving on. Then we had Otis versus Dolph Ziggler. You know, it was a pretty standard match as well. It was alright. Finish was a nice moment. Moment where Sonya distracts Otis and he gets low blow by Ziggler. Then as Ziggler's about to win, when Mandy comes out, slaps Sonya, kicks Dolph below the belt, Caterpillar, 1, 2, 3. Otis wins, picks Mandy up in his arms, they share a kiss, and walk off. Happy ending. Ending there. It's a bit cheesy, but it's classic. It's fine. Nothing wrong there. It was a fine match. Then we get to what I think might be maybe the most controversial match of the night. The other one is a one I'll get to later. Edge versus Randy Orton in the Last Man Standing match. It started off pretty well. You know, Orton attacking, discuss the cameraman, runs in and attacks Edge before as the entrances are happening. They brawl a bit in the performance center training room, and immediately I notice a bit of a problem with this match. They're in the training room. They're using the equipment a little bit, not much. Like they look at a chain but don't use it. They pick up some weights but barely use them. There's some weights right next to them. Do they use them? No. There's a chair next to them. Do they use it? No. And then they just start brawling and walking around the area. They throw each other into a wall, throw each other into a door, walk, throw each other in, toss each other off a balcony near the ringside. Brawl a bit more, gets into the conference room. There's a nice spot there where they brawl onto a conference room. Randy gets on the table. Edge gets up to some sort of chain fence that they have on the roof. He climbs that up and then drops an elbow onto Randy. Then they brawl a bit more, back and forth in between. They get to the garage or loading station or something, and there's a ton of ladders there from the ladder match from last night. But do they use them? Not really. They find some chairs, and Randy deliberately tosses them away and doesn't use them. Randy then picks Edge up and tosses him into some steel steps that are near, but they don't use them. They brawl towards a production. A bit more back and forth, constantly having to take rests. Then Edge gets Orton on the table, jumps on him from a high leverage through the table, and Orton gets busted open. Brawl a bit more, back and forth, brawl a bit more. They get to a pickup truck. Orton gets Edge on the driver's on the roof of the driver's seat. DDTs him onto the loading point. I don't know what it's called. They climb up to the top of a production truck. Brawl a bit there. Edge hits the spear. Orton hits the RKO at some point. He goes back down, gets some chairs, passes by a giant ladder that they don't use. Get the chairs up there. Then we get to the ending sequence where he tries to go for, but Edge go for the concerto, but Edge catches him in some sort of submission hold. Down on the chair, Edge picks up the chair, cries a bit before he finally slams down the concerto, and he's down, out, 10 count, Edge wins. So the ending sequence was pretty cool, but the set pieces and the brutality of the match was very few and far between. And this match was long. Very long. And man, it was good, but I feel like there was two major problems. One, it was too long, and two, I feel like it just didn't use weapons enough. This match doesn't feel as brutal as it should have been. There should have been more brutality. There should have been more weapons. There should have been more use of the environment instead of what was done. It was very underwhelming. But again, it wasn't bad per se, but I know this match has divided opinion a little bit. Moving on, we have what was next? Was it a tag? I think it was the tag match next. Yeah, the Raw Tag Team Championship match. It was kind of short, but it was fine. You know, they got some stuff in here and there. The match ended when Austin Theory picked up Angelo Dawkins for his finisher. Then Montez Ford hit the frog splash onto Theory. Dawkins rolled over onto Theory. 1, 2, 3. Profits retain. You know, fair enough. It was an okay match. Bit short maybe. Could have maybe shaved up a little bit from Edge and Orton and given them some more time. But hey, it was a pretty meaningless match anyways. It didn't matter. Post-match was very interesting. Selena gets into the ring, tries to attack Montez Ford. Out comes Bianca Belair, who, if you don't know, is Montez Ford's wife, I believe. She hits Selena with the KOD and celebrates with the Street Profits. Then, what was next? Let's see, they did. Let's see. It was Rhea, Charlotte, Black Lashley, Otis, Dolph, Edge, Orton, tag match. Yeah, there was the SmackDown Women's Championship match. And also in between that, there was a brawl for the 24/7 championship. Gronk hit an elbow from the top of the podium, pinned Mojo Rawley to win the 24/7 championship, and that was that. And apparently Titus O'Neil just took over hosting duties for some reason. Anyway, we got the SmackDown Women's Championship match. It was fine. All the women got to do the things. Tamina, had to be hit by every finisher imaginable to be pinned. Naomi got tapped up by Sasha Banks. Bailey, Lacey, unfortunately for me, because I picked Sasha Banks, hit Sasha with a women's right after miscommunication between Bailey and Sasha, Lacey pinned Sasha. Then she was battling with Bailey. Bailey was going to hit another women's right, but then Sasha came out, hit the backstabber. Bailey hit her finisher, which I don't remember the name of, and picked up the win. So Bailey retains. And Seeds of Deception are so... I still can't tell who's the heel, though, because the miscommunication was legitimately a miscommunication. And it didn't really feel like Sasha or Bailey were acting all that heelish towards each other. They seemed to be on the same page throughout the entire match. Match one miscommunication aside, and yeah, I can't really tell who is going to turn at the moment. But they are sowing seeds. Then we got to what I think might be my favorite match of the night, the Firefly Funhouse match. Holy hell. Again, like I talked about controversial match, this match is probably going to be very controversial because me, oh my, I fucking love this match. But I know people are going to hate the way that match was done. Anyway, let's talk about it. So it starts, John Cena's actually about to make his way to the ring, and I'm thinking, wait, what is happening in the ring? Then he's interrupted by the Firefly Funhouse. And suddenly Cena, and after Bray enters a door which has the words "Abandon Hope, ye who enter here," then Cena's teleported into the funhouse. He's told by Rambling Rabbit to go in. He goes in, and all of a sudden, we see footage all over the place, and Bray is in the ring, and he's cutting the Kurt Angle promo from when Cena debuted, and he comes out in front of the SmackDown fist that they have there as Cena when he first debuted, and he gets in the ring, and he says, "Ruthless aggression," and tries to punch Bray, and he ducks, and Bray just taunts him. At one point, he actually says, "You can look, but you can't touch," as a reference to Nikki Bella. It was amazing with how much. Amazing. And then, for some reason, suddenly we are at Saturday night main event, and they're just doing old 80s cheesy promos with each other. They're not even fighting. It's like Bray and Cena are just doing cheesy 80s promos with Mercy the Buzzard and the Vince McMahon puppet on commentary, and I'll get to that in a moment. Anyway, and then suddenly, suddenly Cena's turned into Dr. Fucking Cena. He cut some promos there. then Bray Wyatt transforms into his cult leader and talks about how badly things went from WrestleMania 30. Then we're suddenly in the ring with Cena and cult leader Bray Wyatt. He tries to go for Sister Abigail. And they have a callback to the match with Cena trying to swing at him with a chair. Then suddenly we're transported to Nitro. And Bray Wyatt comes out and acts like Eric Bischoff. Then Cena comes out acting like Hollywood Hogan. And the Vince McMahon puppet says, uncensored, "This is such good shit." Uncensored. I couldn't fucking believe it. And then Cena turns on Bray while they're in the NWO segment. He starts beating the hell out of Bray, and he suddenly turns into Huskis the Pig Boy, and he realizes he's beat up Huskis the Pig Boy. The Fiend comes out from behind him, and he holds him in a Sister Abigail, and they cut to the promo saying that this match is gonna end the most overhyped, overrated star of all time. And then the Fiend hits Cena with the Sister Abigail, locks in the Mandible Claw, and then Funhouse Bray gets in there. 1, 2, 3, and that's it. The Fiend win. And oh man, all the references, all the callback, all the weird bullshit that was there. Yeah, man, this was so... I know some people aren't gonna like this, and I understand that, but man, I loved this. This hokey bullshit. There's the callbacks, the display of the Fiend's power. It's just, man, this was great. I loved it, and it was such a great way to rejuvenate Bray Wyatt a little bit, to show that he has this kind of power over John Cena, and to be just destroying John Cena like this. I'm gonna just echo the Vince McMahon puppet. This is such good shit. I love this. If you didn't, I completely understand, but I love this. And then we got to the main event. Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre. For some reason, Paul Heyman didn't do the introduction for Brock, which was weird. Anyway, Drew hits the Claymore early on, kicks out at 2. Brock then starts suplexing him like 3 times, I think. Hits an F5. Drew kicks out at 1. Picks him up for another F5. Kick out at 2. A few more suplexes, I think. Another F5. Kick out at 2. Drew gets out of avoids another F5. Hits the Claymore. 1, 2. They weren't stupid. They weren't idiots. They actually went through with it. Drew McIntyre is the new WWE champion. Holy fuck. I was so worried. They weren't going to go through with it. But thank you. Thank you for doing the right thing here. I loved this. I am so happy that they pulled the trigger and was willing, even though there weren't a crowd to celebrate Drew's victory, I'm so glad that Drew was able to pull out the victory. And he's the new WWE champion and the first ever UK-born WWE champion. I mean, the match itself, spam finishers. That was all it was. It was not a good match, really. But I think Drew's victory made up for it. And that's how we went off air. So what did I think of WrestleMania 36 as first night 2? I should talk about that. Night 2, I feel like was a little bit middling in the middle, but the beginning, while the result was infuriating, the match itself was pretty good, and the matches for the most part were good or okay at the most, and the ending. The endings, like the Funhouse match, was brilliant. I loved it. And Drew versus Brock, not really a good match per se, but the fact that Drew won, I think that made up for it. So night 2, really entertaining, and that's really all it has to be. It was an entertaining night. And that can be said about the whole thing of WrestleMania. Yeah, the atmosphere of the matches was really fucking weird. And I can't help but think these empty arena matches. It's a little bit hard to enjoy, really. And I feel like maybe I'm getting a bit tired of it, honestly. So, yeah, I know they've said that they're gonna do Money in the Bank in May, and I'm not sure I want to see another pay-per-view, honestly. But I'll talk about that afterward. But as for Mania itself, it was entertaining. It was fun. Was it the best Mania I've ever seen? No, not really. It's like I had some issues with the results. Some of the matches were just kind of standard Raw matches, and you could have cut them like Elias versus. For example, Elias versus Corbin or Alistair versus Lashley. You could have just cut those matches. They didn't need to be there. And even stuff like the Raw Tag Team title match, you could have cut that too, because it was a kind of pointless match in the end. Unless Bianca has officially moved to the main roster. I don't know. I would have thought this was just a one-time thing because, hey, it's in the Performance Center. She works at the Performance Center. Her husband just won a match. Why not bring her out for a moment? But overall, it's an enjoyable Mania. And it does benefit from the fact that it was over two nights. Because man, if this had been a one-night show, it would have been exhausting. Because I know that from experience, because that was what happened with last year's Mania. That was exhausting. But it was a fun night. I definitely recommend watching WrestleMania 36. Thanks. If nothing else, if nothing else, the ladder match and Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins from night 1 was excellent. The Boneyard match is certainly something to experience. Rhea versus Charlotte, with the exception of the ending, was a good match. The Funhouse match is, again, something you need to experience. You might love it, you might hate it. I loved it personally. And then, of course, you have Drew winning the title. Even if the match wasn't that good, it's just such a great thing to see. And if why you're talking about Braun winning the title, there was so little build up to that match that I just didn't care. Honestly, it's like, sure, it's nice that Braun finally won a title, but with the build up, it didn't feel right. Honestly, he should have had a bigger thing for a bigger program before he won that title. Then again, he probably should have won that title years ago. But yeah, that's 36. I enjoyed it. But I think that's going to be it for my wrestling pay-per-views for a while. My Money in the Bank happens, I'm probably not even going to watch it. I might need a break from watching pay-per-views, honestly, because these empty arena thing. So I might just need a break from wrestling altogether for the rest of the year, because these empty arena matches, they're just kind of sad to watch. And I say the rest of the year because anyone who's talking about SummerSlam, I am fairly convinced that if SummerSlam happens, it's gonna be inside. It's gonna be an empty arena match. It's gonna be empty arena matches all around. Because I just, as a constant reminder, this pandemic, it ain't going away anytime soon. They might lift some restrictions, and then they're gonna regret it. I'm convinced that if they lift any restrictions, they're gonna regret doing so. I mean, you look at. I don't want to make this a big thing about the pandemic, but I just want to say this as a closing thing. Thing to anyone who's even thinking about, oh, they could lift the restrictions by the summer or something like that. If you take this situation too lightly, you're gonna get situations like look at Britain and look at Sweden, for example. I use those as my. They didn't take this threat seriously at the beginning. Look what happens to them. Look at the United States. I don't think they took the threat too seriously, and look what happened to them. I'm saying this as a Norwegian because we took it seriously, and our death toll we just passed 70, compared to something like Sweden, who just passed 400. I hate to end this on a downer, but I need people to take this damn thing seriously. Don't think that, oh, it's going to be better by the summer, something like that. Be realistic. No experts have been telling us that it's going to get better by the summer. At best, this might come to an end next year, when a vaccine comes out. Hopefully. Hopefully there will be one next year. I probably shouldn't end this on a sour note. WrestleMania was enjoyable. I enjoyed it a lot. Is it my favorite Mania? Not really. But I enjoyed it. There was good stuff. Not every match was good. The world title matches, from a match standpoint, wasn't that good. But, Drew winning was a great thing. The Boneyard match is certainly something to experience. I mentioned all the good stuff. And please, if you haven't seen the Firefly Funhouse match, do so. It's something to experience. And personally, I absolutely love this thing. It's so good. I feel like I just have to end it with Vince McMahon puppet. With echoing Vince McMahon puppets. It may not be the best Mania, but I gotta tell ya, it's such good shit.